And like I said, I'm going to kind of have some notes up on my screen here, and I'm going to be sharing my other screen. So please feel free to unmute and ask any questions, because I will not be, once I'm kind of doing my training, I won't be monitoring the chat. And so feel free to unmute anytime and ask a question. Are there any questions before we get started? Is there anything anybody is dying to learn today? Or you just like, show it to me, show everything to me, because that's what I'm going to try and do today. Okay, let's get started. So I'm actually going to move my agenda over here as well. Oop, did somebody have a question or? I'll say everybody's saying, show me adding new users. Okay, good. Adding new users. And Catherine, you've used IEP Online. So I guess that would be a good question that I should probably throw out there. And just using your reactions, it's been many years. I'd love to see your reactions. For those of you who have used IEP Online, do a thumbs up. And I don't know, do you have a thumbs down? Maybe in the lobby. Let's see, what are my reactions? Maybe a thumbs up if you've been using IEP Online, and maybe the shocked face if you've not used it before, because I think some people have not used it before and they've come from other systems. And so just using your reactions, I'd love to see if you have a thumbs up, you've used it before, or a shocked face if you have not used it before. Do you guys see your reaction buttons are there? I don't know if you have the reaction buttons as a meeting participant. Do you guys see those up on top? If not, that's okay. No reaction button. Okay. If you do, great. If not, we'll just move right along. Okay. So we're actually going to get started here on our homepage dashboard. And this is, oops, let me get to my, here we go. This is our homepage dashboard, and you guys are probably familiar with this in regards, oops, I should probably keep this up so I can see who's in the lobby. Oops. Oh, 1 sec. Oh, she came in. Okay, good. Oh, I don't. Yes, I want to stay logged in. Our homepage dashboard is where we have normally where you can see your SIS imports. That's usually right up here. This is our demo site, so we obviously don't have any imports, but you'll see your student imports as well as your contact imports here, and you'll see it nightly. This is a good place to take a look if you, for example, have a kiddo that maybe was updated in the SIS, and then you notice in IEP Online, maybe the grade or the school didn't update overnight. Come here and take a look at your SIS import system, and it's going to say, maybe it's going to say demographic, and click, if there's any errors, click on that and you'll find the student number, and you can see if something didn't import. So that's the best way to take a look at that. And then you can also email us and say, hey, student with the number didn't import. Can you help me figure out why? And we can take a look at maybe the import file or see why maybe that student didn't import. So this is a great place to take a look if maybe, for example, the student didn't import.
What specifically does SIS stand for?
SIS, that's a great question. Student Information System. So SIS would be Skyward, PowerSchool. That's going to be your system that you enter in all of your kiddos for their registration and all of that. So every night, demographic information, school, language, home address, contact information, email addresses, phone numbers, all of that demographic information is taken from your student information system, whether it's Skyward, PowerSchool, throw another name in there, and taken from your SIS, student information system, and brought over into IEP Online. So that's how your students get into IEP Online. So WSIPC pulls that information from your student information system and then imports it into IEP Online. So that's a good thing to ask, because a lot of times districts will say, hey, can you update the grade? Well, in IEP Online, and we can't. We can't go in and enter, we can't do that. What we'll say is, hey, can you double check your student information system, Skyward, PowerSchool, et cetera, and make sure that the grade is updated in your SIS, or the language or the school or whatever, needs to be updated. And then if that is updated in your SIS, then it'll be brought over the night, that night. Now, that being said, there's
Chris,
always.
Can you show again where to find that?
Yep, it's usually right here. It says SIS import. I don't have anything here because we don't import, but it's going to be, usually it's the very, very top of your screen on your homepage. And you'll normally we'll see here, it'll say demographic and it'll say contacts. And it'll say the number of files that came over, and then it'll say the number of, if there were any errors. So it's going to be right here, and it'll say the date as well. So if it was imported today, it'll say 9/7/2022. And so if you notice that it says maybe 9/1, you're like, oh, my imports haven't been running since 9/1. So you'll need to reach out to us. But it's going to be right here, and it'll look a lot better on yours. So if you're following along actually on your IEP Online, you should actually see that right here at the top of your screen. Does anybody, if you're following along, is anybody not seeing that on the top of their screen?
So it tells me like 9/7/22 contacts.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another one that says students. That's what
Yep.
it is.
Yep, that's exactly.
Thank you.
Yep, exactly. So this is where you're going to find that information. Another, we have all of this information down here. All of this information can be customized for your district. We can put videos on here. We can put links. We can do, what I would really like to do on here is, and I think I did it for this, but I haven't done it, is put the actual link for the procedural safeguards. So then it links you to OSPI. So then when you go to OSPI, it's got all the different languages there, rather than putting, we've had districts say, hey, can you put all the languages on the homepage? We would prefer to put the link to OSPI, because if there's any changes in the procedural safeguards, then we would have to take the form down and put the new form up. I'm going to double check, and I'm going to write myself a note right here while I'm saying this, to make sure that all of your home pages have that link. So it'll go right to that OSPI page. So then you'll have access to that. And so we can always update this information if you want to add any sort of special links to anything specific, we can update this as well. The other thing we can update, so we have district materials, state materials, and global materials. Under district materials, we can add any type of district form that you would like us to add. So if you would like us to add a calendar, we just added some tables for a district. We can add any kind of, we add a Medicaid consent form. If there's anything that you would like us to add, we can add it here under district material. So that's going to be specific to your district. And then we also keep on here, we have some videos, which our goal was to update the videos this summer, but we just didn't get a chance to. We were pretty busy this summer. But the great section for just updating or putting anything specific to your district, we can add that here. State materials are going to be all of your QRDs, your quick reference documents, as well as release notes. And we have our IDT districts here. So if you're looking for to know if you're Olympia and you want to know if Tumwater is using IEP Online, you can pull up this IDT district list and you can see what districts are currently using IEP Online. So you can do an IDT, which is an inter-district transfer, and that's an electronic transfer of records from IEP Online districts. So we keep that here, as well as our manuals. So we have administrative manuals, we have a 504 manual. All of those are within within our state materials. Now, Imani has worked hard all summer to take all of the releases and all of the release notes and has incorporated the releases into the manuals and QRDs. So I'm going to let you know right now that Imani's last day is Friday. She's actually has taken another position. And so before she leaves on Friday, I'm hoping she gets these all uploaded. But she will be leaving us on Friday. But she has worked very hard to get these all uploaded. And so you will start seeing some of these with, and I'm not seeing them right now, with 2022. So she's taken, so all of the release notes will be taken down, and then you'll be able to see all of the release notes incorporated into the admin manual, into the IEP manual, anything that has impacted, the release notes have impacted any type of QRD, quick reference document, or a manual, they've been added here. And then lastly, actually I take that back. That needs to actually be moved down here. Because QRDs are actually, these are more release notes and manuals, and then all the QRDs actually are in the global materials. I think that got put in the wrong section. And so the global materials are actually the QRDs, which are the quick reference documents. And the quick reference documents are actually specific topics. So our admin manual, I think, is like 70 pages. And so what we've done is we've taken sections of our manual and done one-sheeters, or they might be two-sheeters. And so like you just have, so if you're looking for something specific on maybe how to log in, how to create a record, how to enter a goal, how to do, how to do certain things, you can actually just grab a page versus searching through the entire admin manual. Now, the great thing about this, this homepage is if you have something specific that you're looking for, you could actually do a Control F and type in, say, BIP, and then it's going to pull up anything that has BIP in it, or you can type in logging in, and it'll give you logging in. So if you have something specific that you're looking for or need help with, if you do Control F and do a search, and then type in the specific topic that you're looking for, it'll pull up anything that has that title in it, or has that word in the title. So you can access, sorry, I'm still letting people in. You can access those documents, so you don't have to just scan and search all of these documents to try and find what you're looking for. You just do a Control F, type in the word, and it's going to pull up any titles that have that word in it. Any questions about this homepage or dashboard? And oh, real quick too, the other thing is there's good QRDs for not only level ones, there's good, great ones for end users. So if you're working with an end user that may be having trouble, here's a great one with a transition, entering in a transition for a kiddo, you can refer them to, like, for example, the transition QRD, or here's one for troubleshooting goals and present levels. Excuse me. So they're not only great for level ones, they're also great for end users. So if you're having, if an end user is having trouble with a specific topic, you can refer them here as well, and tell them also, hey, do a Control F on the dashboard, see if you can find a quick reference document that can maybe help you. Now, if you do a Control F and there's maybe a topic that you're looking for that you don't see on here, email customer support. And we can actually work on creating a quick reference document for you to add to here, because we don't know what we don't know, and we don't know what we're missing. So we're happy to add one if there's a topic that's missing. Okay, Trina, did you have a question? I see a hand raised.
No, I do not have a question.
We then are going to move right along. So we're actually going to go right into the Find Student screen first. And I think if any of you know me, you all know I love the Find Student screen. Hold on. We're going to get there in a second. Okay, so first and foremost, if you have any kiddos marked on your caseload or marked yourself as a provider or a case manager, which you as level ones most likely wouldn't mark yourself as a case manager. But for example, I've marked myself as the student's case manager, or excuse me, other provider, because I want him to just pull up. So if you are marked as another provider, when you click the IEP Online button, oops, your caseload is going to pop up. This is kind of, I do it in air quotes because this is just a kiddo that I can easily find and I don't have to search for. Other people, other districts or some districts mark other provider, maybe for safety net kiddos, or they do some sort of indication of those safety net kiddos. And anybody who wants to jump in to say how they mark safety net kiddos, I would love to hear it, because everybody always asks about safety net kiddos and how they track them. You can mark yourself as other provider. So then when you log into IEP Online, those safety net kiddos pop up for you. But I'm actually going to go to Find Student because I'm not going to go to My Student yet. I'm going to go right here to Find Student. And so, everybody uses this to find students, obviously, or find a student, or find a caseload, or find, something specific. But this is actually a very powerful tool. Obviously, you can search for first name, last name, student ID, or SSID number. But you can also search all kiddos at one particular school. You can actually pull up someone's caseload. So if you type in the case manager, say the first three of their first name, I don't know if I'm in here as a case manager, let me see. And then the last three of my last name. And then I select primary. Primary is going to select only those kiddos that I am the primary case manager for, which I know I'm not. Or I can select other, that I am only the other provider for. But if I leave it unchecked, it's going to look for all kiddos that I have access, other provider, or primary case manager, kind of pulls all those kiddos in. And so it's going to pull my caseload. And so then I can just see those kiddos that I have, all the kiddos that I have access to. And so if I hit find, it should just pull this one kiddo up again. Oh, nope, it didn't. Okay, well. Oh, because it's not gonna, because I'm a super user. So I was a bad example. But if you type in the case manager and select primary, you're gonna get a case manager and all of the kiddos that they are primary case manager for. A couple of other things on this particular, and I'll show you this in a little bit when we are in codes, but you can actually set this SIS status where it defaults to active. So every time the Find Student screen pops up, it's going to automatically have active in here. And I'll show you where we're going to do that when we get down to codes. But I just like to point that out as we're doing this. Now, one thing that's a little bit tricky with it populating to active is that if, for example, you're looking for a kiddo and the kiddo just happens to be inactive and you forget to uncheck this and leave it, so you're going to look for active and inactive, it does get a little confusing. So you do always have to remember to uncheck this for if you're looking for somebody that you don't know whether they're active or inactive. But I'll show you that in a little bit as well. You can also pull kiddos by grade. And so that's just the school information and how you can pull that case manager, SIS status, and all of that. Now, the new thing, this is actually a new release that came out this summer. The eligibility tab pulls from obviously the eligibility tab. And in the past, or last year, I should say, and prior, it just pulled from reevaluations and initial evaluations. Over the summer, in one of the releases, it is now pulling from assessment revisions. So in the past, we had districts saying, gosh, I have kiddos with communication, but it's not pulling these handful of kiddos. Why isn't it pulling these handful of kiddos? Well, it's because an assessment revision was completed and communication was added on the assessment revision. So we noticed that we were missing this population of kiddos that were, whether it was maybe adding maybe a one-on-one in a related service, adding some SDI, adding some different things, we were noticing that we were missing pulling those kiddos when we were doing a search within this eligibility category. And so now, which is great, so it pulls from assessment revisions, the initial evaluations, as well as the reevaluations. So you can pull kiddos here by disability. You can pull them by related services, SDI, eligibility status, and then SAS. I don't think I have it. Oh yeah, I do, SAS. And so the one thing I do like to point out in here is that if you have, for example, a kiddo who maybe has a one-on-one, and we see this all the time, and so I like to bring this up. We have a kiddo maybe who has a one-on-one as a related service. Now, it may not be in the eligibility under related, but they've added it as related in the IEP. So we've had districts say, hey, I'm pulling up kiddos with one-on-ones, but it's, again, not capturing everything. It's not capturing all those kiddos. You have to remember that, okay, it has to be on the eligibility under decision where it says related, and we'll get to this too, but just kind of talking right now, where it says related SAS and where you enter the SDI, this is where it pulls from. So if you don't have one-on-one under related service in the eligibility, but it's in the IEP, you're not going to pull those kiddos that have that one-on-one in the IEP. So we get that question a lot as well. And I'm going to show you how to kind of alleviate that problem when we get into Admin Online. But just like to point that out, that if you have a related service in the IEP, or even an SAS in the IEP, but not necessarily in the evaluation, you may pull that here. You're not going to pull all those kiddos. You're going to have those kiddos that have it in the IEP, but not necessarily in the evaluation. But I'm going to show you something in Admin Online that can help alleviate that problem. So that being said, I'm going to pull that off. I'm going to delete that. And then the last thing I'm going to show you, obviously you can pull up any type of records by a specific date. So you can go plan expires date, eligibility. You can pull all of those by dates. But the last thing I actually want to show you on this screen is the status locked or unlocked. This is going to actually only refer to locked or unlocked plans. So it's not going to pull an unlocked eligibility. This is only going to refer to an unlocked or locked plan. So if you're looking for specific unlocked IEPs, we can go ahead and click that, and it's going to pull any any record or any unlocked IEP into the roster. And I'm going to show you what that roster looks like here in a second. Any questions?
Yes. When you were talking about the supplementary aids and services, could you say again where those need to be on the IEP? Because like I just tried to pull all my students who have a proximity para, and I got nothing. I know that's not true. So I'm trying to figure out how those need to be changed.
Yep. So the supplementary aids and services is going to, and I'm going to actually cancel out of here. And I'm going to pull up my student just to show you where that is. So the SAS that I showed you on the Find Student screen is only pulling from the evaluation, the decision, and so that I think you said proximity one-on-one.
Yeah, proximity
it has
para.
to be, yeah, it has to be entered here in order to pull from to pull into that Find Student screen. You're probably entering it into the plan as a service, I'm guessing, which wouldn't pull from that eligibility tab. So you can enter SAS into the plan without it being in the evaluation, but from that Find Student screen, it's only pulling the supplementary aids and services that are actually in the evaluation. So that's the difference. Does that make sense?
Probably no, but I think
Oh.
it will, once I
Okay.
spend more time in this system.
Yeah, I know. And we'll get to it. So you're probably entering one-on-one. You're probably creating a supplementary aids and services in the IEP. And you're probably saying, let's say, I don't know if I can, probably don't have anything. Pretend I'm doing, oh, here, let's say instructional. Say that says one-on-one, special ed. This is my, I'll say paraeducator, teacher, let's say 45 minutes, 2 times daily. And then we'll save. And I don't know if you guys saw this morning, we're having a little glitchy with the system this morning, and I'm hoping this isn't gonna, it was erroring people out. And shares that it might do that to me during the training, which I was hoping it wasn't gonna do that. And it's taking a little long to save, so I'm worried it's gonna come up with an error.
So if it's in this service area, it's not gonna pull it, correct?
Correct, yeah, and that's what I was trying to show you. So when it's entered here, it's not gonna pull if you're looking for it in the Find Student screen in that eligibility section.
Okay.
So it needs to be, it would need to be added in the eligibility on the decision tab here under SAS, Supplementary Aids and Services, in order to pull into that from the Find Student screen. But we can figure out other ways too. There's other ways to pull that information from the IEP, and we'll talk about that in a little bit too. Okay, because there's other ways. Yeah, there's other ways. And then Amy Jean, you have a question. What's the difference between a plan and an IEP? A plan and an IEP is the same. We have I kind of interchange them. We have a plan tab, and within the plan tab, you can have an initial IEP, a review IEP. You can have an ESY IEP. You can have lots of different things, but I kind of, because an IEP stands for individual education plan. So I kind of interchange them, and I apologize for that. I guess when I'm, referring to IEP, IEP and plan can refer to any IEP review, initial, anything like that. And when I say locked and unlocked, I'm going to show you that in a little bit. And I'm going to show you that when we get here, that you'll see here, right in my eligibility. We're going to kind of talk about this down the road, but you'll see here that this one is locked. And you'll see this one is unlocked, which we're going to get to that one down the road, but one is like a draft form and one is a final form. And we'll get to that in just a little bit. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you in the Find Student screen is one of the things I love to do and love to show is if, for example, at the start of school, you're looking for those kiddos that may not have a primary case manager assigned to them. I like to I run a list of just SIS status active, SIS status active, and then eligibility IDEA. And then I just do find. And then that's going to pull up a bunch of kiddos. I've got a lot of kiddos here. And so it's going to pull up those kiddos. And then I want to actually export it, because you'll see here, I've got the ID, I've got the student name, whether they're active, their birth date, grade, disability. I have their eligibility expires. I've got their plan meeting due. I have their plan expires. And then CM stands for case manager. So you can actually mark yourself as case manager here and select update caseload. or you can select yourself as other provider and select update caseload. And then UL indicates whether the plan is locked or unlocked. This indicates that the plan is unlocked. And then I'm going to show you this button towards the end of the training. It's a pretty powerful button. But right now I want to export this list. And so I'm going to click export. And our reports print into an old RPT file. We are working on, I'm hoping, I'm hoping we're eventually going to get these to just populate in Excel. But right now, and this is what mine looks like, they end up populating in your downloads file. And so what I like to do is go to my downloads file. And here it is. I just printed this 9.4, and it's an RPT file. And I can tell I just printed it because it's 9:46. And then I actually go to a blank Excel document. And this is the easiest way to get these RPT files from your download file into an Excel. I just take that RPT file and I drag it into a blank workbook like this. And now I've got an Excel document with that roster of so I have this now roster of kiddos in this Excel document. And it's just dragging and dropping from that downloads file, that RPT file, into this, into an Excel document. And that can work for any of our reports that print to an RPT file. Just go right into the downloads file, grab that RPT and put it into a blank Excel, and it just is the easiest way to do it. So here you have all that same information that was on our roster here. But we actually have a little bit more information, if you see, because now we have our LRE. So this is a good report if you're looking for maybe all of the kiddos that are active and eligible for IDEA. If you're looking for kiddos who are maybe in one specific LRE, like maybe 40 to 70%, you can actually come in here and you can filter. Oops, we did it. So you can actually come in here and filter and then look for and then filter all those kiddos that are in a specific LRE if you're looking for that. Sometimes we get that question of, hey, I need 5th graders that are in 0 to 39 LRE. And so we would recommend running this report because it would pull those kiddos and you can filter for 5th grade and then that LRE. So it's a good report to run when you're looking for kind of mass information. And so you have that here. And if I unfilter this now, okay. So you've got, again, it's that additional information that wasn't on that screen, but it populates when you put that report into an Excel document. Another column that's printed that's not on the roster in IEP Online when we looked at it is the referral date. So this is the date that the parent signed consent in the consent tab of the referral. So this is on here as well. And then what I wanted to actually show you is, so it's the start of school. You're trying to figure out, do all of our kiddos have primary case managers? And so by running just an active IDEA, you are going to get your list of kiddos. And then what I do, and I recommend to districts, is coming here to case manager, unchecking everybody, leaving the blanks, and then you have your list of kiddos. You're probably not going to have as many as I do, but then you're going to have your list of kiddos who don't have a primary case manager assigned to them. So you want to make sure, obviously at the start of school, that all of your kiddos have primary case managers assigned to them. What I did in Kent is, we did this actually monthly, is we would actually print this and send it off to, if there was a high school department head or lead, or we would send it to a principal at a school and say, hey, these kiddos don't have primary case managers, can you make sure that these kiddos get assigned a case manager? And so just something to look at, especially at the start of school, when, kiddos are coming and, there's lots of kiddos and they might not have a primary case manager assigned. So it's a good thing to take a look at right now. So just some good information from that Find Student screen. Like I said, it's a powerful tool. And I can, like I said, spend 2 hours on it, but we're not doing that today because we have a lot more to cover. Any questions about this particular Find Student, what we just ran? Any questions? Right, we're going to move on. I'm going to leave this report up in case we need to come back to it. Oh, hold on. Now I lost there we go. Okay. So we're now going to move into admin online. So this is where, I'll pull up my notes too to make sure I cover everything. So this is where where you guys are going to probably spend more of your time than an IEP online. So we have our top menu options here. We've got users, we have students, reports, preferences, and codes. The other two are for super users, and I don't believe you have them. I could be wrong, but we're not going to cover those today. So I'm going to start out here in users, and we basically, we can do within the users, this is where you're going to, find users, add users, you can delete users, you're going to reset passwords, you're going to give permissions, you can copy and transfer caseloads, and you can do locations. So we're first going to start with how to find a user. So some districts have, yes, Amy Jean, yes. IDEA and active or the parameters, yes. Some districts just have one page of users, smaller districts, which I love because you can just see everybody on one page. Some districts, Seattle, Tacoma, the bigger districts have multiple pages. I think I was working in, I think Mukilteo might be on here, and I was working, they have 9 pages. Well, you don't want to search through 9 pages of users. So if you want to find a user, you can click on find user. You can, if you're looking for maybe all the OTs, if you're looking for all of the SLPs, you can actually enter in a title here, which is going to pull up all the SLPs. If you're looking for all the staff at a particular school, you can type in the school, or you can type in the name. Oops. And then it will pull up that user. So here I am. We're going to take a look at my profile. And so within everybody's profile, there may be a few more. I'm a super user, so there may be a few more in mine than you guys have, but it's pretty similar. Now there's nothing you guys can do with the password once the password is established. We're going to go over that when I show you how to create a user. But you'll see here, we're going to actually talk about the permissions for right now. All of you should have administrator functions, which then will give you access to assign administrator functions to other users within your district. You can assign read-only access, which maybe, for example, I know a lot of districts give read-only access to principals, so they can just go in and take a look at particular kiddos. And then can unlock records. Now, my recommendation for can unlock records is fewer is better within a district. You really don't want a lot of people to have that can unlock records, because one of our top thing we always, besides disable your pop-up blocker and don't use the back button in your browser, is don't unlock records. And that is one of our things that we, always really encourage. Sometimes we have to, I get that, but you don't want your staff out there in the buildings unlocking records. So maybe it's you and one other person, or maybe 2 other people that have the actual access to unlock records. But you as an administrator can assign that to who has access to unlock records. I'm trying to see what other things in here. I think with the access level, like I said, we we can see things that you can't see. So it's kind of sometimes hard for me to point things out. But I think you guys can, if you guys are using Medicaid or Progress Track, I know I'm not sure what districts are on here that may use Progress Track. Checking Easy Track user, that will give you access to Progress Track and Easy Track. So if you are using one of those systems and you're entering in a new user, you're going to want to give them Easy Track user access. Translate documents. So for example, if you have the add-on product of translating documents, you can assign and give access to the translate documents. IDT access is our inter-district transfer. So you can give access to users who do the inter-district transfer. And then I think, oh, you can check the access all locations and students. This is a relatively new one. So when this is checked, when a new school, for example, is added, in the past, you would have had to go in and check the box and check admin, which I'll show you here in a second, and add that new school. Now, if this checkbox is checked, if a new school is added, if a new location is added, if a student is added, or students are added to those locations, it will automatically, if the user has access to all locations, those locations will automatically be added. So that's actually a great thing. So then if you go in and add a new school, you don't have to go into all those users and update the schools and locations and their permissions to those locations. So those are just a few of the things. And I think if this admin, I believe, oh yeah, that if this admin function is unchecked and you maybe it's a teacher or maybe a school psych, you can click reports only. And then they will have, your staff will have access to the reports in admin online, and that's it. So when they click on here in admin online, it'll just take them to the reports and they can run the reports in admin online, but they can't do anything else in admin online, which is actually a nice feature. So they don't have to see anything. The rest of them we turn on. They're all developers, so it's the maintenance function as well as flexible reporting and help desk access. And I'm going to give you guys a little tease. We are changing our help desk access soon to, we're going to not be using our email, our customer support email. We're actually going to be using Zendesk, which we're really, really, really excited about. And it's going to be, you're going to have a little envelope right here where you're going to just click the envelope and it's going to take you, it's going to bring up a message. So you enter this information and it's going to go right into, kind of this app that we have, and then it's gonna, we're gonna respond to you and it's gonna go into your email. So it's gonna be much more efficient. It's not really gonna impact your end of it. It's still gonna go in and out of your email. But for us, it's gonna be more efficient because we're gonna have more of a ticketing system. And then you don't actually have to go into your email, send an email. You're gonna be able to do it right from here. So all of that Jira and customer support is going to kind of go down, kind of go away a little bit, but there's going to be more to come. So don't panic. It's actually going to be a great thing. We're really excited about it. But more to come on that, but that's going to be our help desk access soon, but we'll talk more about that. Super excited about it. It's going to make everybody's life so much easier. So much easier. So I'm going to actually come back out here and I'm going to create a new user. And so when you create a user, you do have to put a password in, but the password isn't going to do anything. Okay. So if I have a new user, let's say their name is new user. Huh? And so I just usually enter a standard password, which is like password 1 exclamation point. And then I'll say password 1 exclamation point. And that's all I do. Nobody's going to use that password. Nobody's going to do anything with it, but I have to put it there in order to create this user. And then I'm just going to put in their name. I'm going to put in their email. And right here, I can go either administrator functions, read-only access, or can unlock records. I can do that here. I can do their job title, let's say OT. Or I can just leave them like a special ed teacher, maybe. We would just leave them unchecked. If they're just a special ed teacher, maybe an OT, and we'll leave them unchecked. So I'm going to create. Oh, your passwords do have to match. Even though you don't do anything with them, they still have to match. Okay, so now if I go back to my find users, let's see where my new user is. Here's my new user right here. Oh, there's two of them. Then I would go into my new user and I would enter in all of my permissions. So say we do Medicaid, I'll go ahead and enter that. I'll do translate documents. Let's do report only, all of that. I can then go in and enter in a school location. So I'm going to enter in my school, Gregoire PS 12. I can enter in any other information, phone, all of that. And I'm going to go ahead and save. Now we're going to go into the locations. So because I checked access to all schools and all students, if I uncheck that, I'm going to click save. We go in. Oh, it's still that way. Okay. Probably because I'm a super user is why it's doing that. It's doing. So let's do there. I'll do that. So if you go in and add, if I'm going to be only at one school, say I'm going to be only at Gregoire PS 12, I'm going to give access to the new user at PS 12 school. Now, if I only check this one button over here where it says select, I'm giving access to the school. I'm not giving access to any students, just the school. This means that you or a level 1 or someone has to go in and assign students to that user's caseload. So then when they log into IEP Online, they have a caseload already created. They can't search any other students. They can only see the kiddos that have been assigned to their caseload. Now, if you click this button and save, they can actually now go in and search every single student at Gregoire PS 12 and then add their own kids to their caseload. Does that make sense? Any questions about that? And I would say it's a 50-50 in regards to what districts do. We have a handful of districts that give them access to the school, but then assign kids to their caseload. And then the other handful of schools give them access to everybody in the building and they assign their own kiddos. In Kent, we gave them access to the entire school and they did their own caseloads. And then once a month, they would print their caseloads and send them to us for us to count their kiddos. One of the things to think about too is who has access to all buildings and all kiddos. For example, School Sykes had access to all buildings, all kiddos. So, thinking about maybe the permission levels as well as the job description and job title of who has access to what locations, and then if they have, access to all students or if they're only going to have their own kiddos assigned. So again, questions about caseloads, and I guess we're not at caseloads yet, but any questions about locations and how this piece works? Okay, good. Let me go to my notes here. Sure, okay. Let me go save that. Let me go back to the profile. The other thing I want to show you in the in here is if you want to transfer. So say this new user is coming in and replacing somebody. And so you actually want to take the other person's caseload and copy it onto this person. You can actually come here to this button, caseload, and say, I want to transfer special education load to the following user. And I can transfer this, well, let me rephrase that. So let me cancel that. So I want to transfer this person's caseload to somebody else. So if I want to transfer somebody's caseload to this user, I want to go to my user list. Let's say, where's Cher? Let's see if Cher has any kiddos. She might get mad at me, but. Oh, Dunster. There she is. We can always transfer them back, but don't tell her. So I can go transfer Cher's caseload to the following user. And let's go to new user. And then I can click transfer. Are you sure you want to transfer this record? We're going to say confirm. I don't even know if she has any kiddos on her. But I'll transfer them back, so don't tell her. So now I'm transferring anybody who was on Cher's caseload. I'm transferring over to our new user. So if Cher has left the district and now new user is replacing her as a teacher, as an OT, as a SLP, you can do that. And now new user has replaced Cher on the caseload as the caseload manager. Any questions about that? We're going to get more into caseloads here in a minute too. Oh, okay. We are going to just keep plugging along. Oh, I was looking at my notes here and it says, I'm looking at actually Cher's notes. It says, can copy or transfer user caseload. Copy will make the original user the other provider and the new user the case manager. And then transfer will mark the new user as the case manager and the original user will not be the provider for them anymore. Okay, so that's kind of what we were saying. It was basically,
Can you
go
repeat
ahead.
that?
Yeah, so I was saying, let's go. I want to look at something. Let's go. I want to see what, hold on, my thing is thinking. I hope it's not. But 1 second, it's, as you see here, it's thinking when our little circle here is. Hold on, I'm hoping I'm not getting logged out. Sorry, hold on. Please hold.
While it's thinking, could you just
Yeah.
say that thing you just read again?
Yes, I can. Let's do that while we're thinking. It says can copy or transfer a user caseload. So if you copy a caseload, copy will make the original user the other provider and the new user the case manager. So if you're copying a caseload, it's going to make Cher the other provider and the new user the case manager. If you're transferring the caseload, it'll mark the new user as the case manager and the original user will not be a provider at all. So that's the difference between copy and transfer. So Cher will be marked, if I copied her caseload to new user, Cher would be now marked as other provider and the new user would be marked as case manager. But transferring it would only make the new user the case manager and Cher would drop off completely. Oh, look at that, perfect timing. And now it's, any questions about that? Did that? Oh, now it's thinking again. What is? It's stopped for a second and then now it's doing it again.
So copy caseload makes the original user the
other provider. I'm gonna put that in, I'm gonna put this in the,
Other
yep, I'm gonna
provider.
put it right here in the, I put it in the chat.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Catherine Logue. Once you change, because I've done this already, I've changed caseload managers because our teacher, one of them left the district.
Uh-huh.
Can we then take them off the user list because they're no longer?
Yes, and that's, yep, that's what I was gonna show next, as soon as
Okay.
my computer has decided.
I'm afraid to do it because I'm not sure what will happen. So
Yeah, what I would, oh my gosh, okay. Let me, okay. Okay, I think I'm going to try and log out and try and log back in, so bear with me, please. Maybe I'm just gonna close out this browser and start over. So you guys can look at my kids. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, now it's telling me, okay, well, let's see. Now it's saying admin online is not available. Well, that's just dandy. Sorry, I'm messaging my team to tell them that admin online isn't available. See if they have any recommendations for me. Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Cher is asking me for a screenshot. So bear with me 1 second.
Maybe this is a good time to take a little break.
Yeah. Let's, I just sent Cher a help message. How about we take 5 minutes and I'm going to stop sharing my screen here for a second while I get this figured out. And I will come right back. So let's say 10:20 while I get this figured out. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to mute and I'm going to turn my camera off. So let's say 10:20 if you guys want to grab some water and come right back. And thank you for your patience. Okay. Sarah got it all figured out, so we are good. I hope you guys are back. And I am all good to go. We're just gonna jump right back in. So I hope you guys are back. I think the last thing we were talking about was, I think Catherine was saying about transferring a caseload to somebody left the district. She transferred the caseload to the new user and now wants to remove the user. Now, Catherine, what I would recommend is before you do anything, before you delete a user, excuse me, I would actually go into IEP Online, enter in the user that left, and I would type in, now I can't remember if I did new user, first or last name, and I would type in their name, and then I would do find.
Can you share the screen again?
Oh, that would help, wouldn't it? As I'm typing away. That would help a lot. Okay, let me go back to let me go back. So I would go to the Find Student screen. Can you see my screen? Looks like. And then just make sure you enter in the person that left, that you transferred, and go back and, go into Case Manager, type in their name, just to make sure that there aren't any more kids assigned to them. And you can leave both the primary and other unchecked, because you want to just make sure you're pulling all the kiddos that they may be assigned to, and then select Find. And then just make sure that they don't have any kiddos assigned to them. Remember, I transferred all the shares to this user. So just double check. Now, if they don't have, so like if I, for example, I probably type in share. She shouldn't have anybody on hers because I transferred it. Yeah, so you'll see share doesn't have anybody on her caseload. So she should be okay to delete. I'm not going to delete her because she'll get mad at me. But just double check before you delete somebody that all the kiddos are off their caseload. So now when you go into Admin Online and into users and you want to delete a user, and I apologize, of course, this decides to move slow on a training day. Or it could be my internet, who knows? So if you decide to, you know, can you look for kids by specific related service? Like, yes, you can, Catherine, and I can show you that in just a minute. So if you say, okay, my demo account is no longer in the district, I've confirmed they no longer have any kiddos, you can actually come here and the little X right here, click the X, it says, do you want to delete this users? Confirm, yes. And then that user is now no longer in the system. I'm going to actually, when we get to reports, I'm going to show you a report that is going to pull users that you can actually look at and see all of the users, especially if you have like multiple pages, that'll show you that you can actually go through and see, look for users, and then maybe cross them off and then come in here and delete users. But you have to, the one thing that I'm not happy about with IEP Online is that you can't mass delete users. You will have to go in and delete them one at a time. So if you have multiple users who maybe have left in a year, you'll have to go into each user and delete them one at a time. And real quick, if you're looking for, Catherine's asking the question about looking for specific related services. If you go into IEP Online and go to that Find Student screen, go to related service here, Catherine, and select your transportation aid. I think I might, oh, I don't have one. Can I type in here? And if I do find, now remember, if I'm searching in this eligibility section of the Find Student screen, it is only going to pull kiddos that have a transportation aid listed in their evaluation. It's not going to pull kiddos that only have it in their IEP. So make sure if you are, and I'm going to show you something again as we go a little bit further, that it's listed in the evaluation in order to pull it from this Find Student screen. We're going to get to where that's going to be here in a little bit, but yes, you can pull kiddos by related services, but it has to be related services that are listed in the evaluation. Did that answer your question, Catherine? Great. Okay. So that is all for the user tab. Are there any questions about the user tab before we move on to the student tab? Okay. So
really quickly, is it better? This is just, I know every district is different, but is it better to just have like the administrator, like myself, be able to unlock records? Or
it depends on how many administrators you have. Sometimes like I always say fewer is better, but I would probably say more than one.
okay.
That would be my recommendation.
Yeah, because right now I'm the only one that can do that.
Yeah, just in case maybe in case you're gone, they can always email us to unlock, but maybe if you're gone or something, maybe if there's one other person, I would say, my recommendation would be to say no more than 2 or 3 in a district. You really want to contain that.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're in the student screen. So this is the screen that has every single kiddo listed. So it's going to have the active kiddos that are in IEP Online. It's going to have the archive students, the pending for deletion student. It's going to have a lot of kiddos in here. And you can do kind of a more extensive search for these kiddos in this screen. You can actually go, you can look for age greater than. So if you're looking for kiddos maybe that are older than 21 or maybe even older, like 7 years from separation from program, you can actually enter that here. You can enter exit codes. You have a lot more options of searching for kiddos because you're actually looking for kiddos that you may want to archive, kiddos that you may want to purge, because as it's 6 years. I always like to say 7 years just because I'm a saver, but 6 to 7 years from data separation from the program that you want to purge your IEP Online records. The Secretary of State, if you look at their purging of records, electronic records are considered exactly the same as paper records. So if you purge the paper records, you have to purge the electronic records. So you have to consider that when you're looking at purging your records. And so you could actually enter the exit date. So if you're looking at maybe doing some pending of deletion, we can take a look at that too. But there's lots of different things you can do in here. If I want to, for example, I want to find an active kiddo. If I want to archive a kiddo, say a kiddo has just left the district, or maybe you did an IDT, the kiddo went to from Olympia to Tumwater. I just like those because I know they're real close together. I can actually come in here and say, oh, I know Audrey went from Olympia to Tumwater. No longer in my district, so I'm actually going to archive those kiddos or archive Audrey. When I archive Audrey is no longer going to show up when I do a search for looking for kiddos. It just cleans up that active database. So Audrey is not going to pull up in my active search of active kiddos that are IDEA. And it's real simple. I can just go in and check Audrey. And as you see, I have a bunch of options up here. I'm just going to click archive. And it says, do you want to archive this check student? I'm going to confirm. And now Audrey is archived. They're still active, but they're archived. Now I can even look up inactive students SIS inactive. I don't know if I'm going to have any in here. Let's see if we can find some. Oh, nope, we don't have any. Let's go back to find student. Let's see if I have unlocked. There we go. And you'll see here I have pending. Pending is what you can do is for, like, for example, if kiddos are 21 and you know that they're going to be, they've left, they've aged out of the program or they've graduated, and you know they're going to be, you can purge their records in 6 or 7 years. You can actually mark these kiddos. I'm going to mark this one, and I'm going to do, oh, hold on, I don't have access. Do I not have access to, give me 1 second. Oop. Let me make sure I have access to purge records here. Okay, this one. Okay, now I've got some more buttons up here. If I want, if I know this kiddo is, let's see if I can find a really young, an older kiddo. Let's just pretend this kiddo is, 21 years old, and about, we know in 7 years we can purge this kiddo's records because, or 6 or 7 years, we can purge this kiddo's records. I can actually mark this kiddo for pending, and I can select pending here. And I can do enter the date. So say it's 6 years from, I can select, let's say 09/30, what's 7 years from today? What is today? 22. So, what is not, so wait, what is today? 2000, no, oops, gosh, this is early math for me. 2029 is when I can purge these records. And then I'm going to do this. And then I can actually print an Excel spreadsheet of all the kiddos that I'm going to purge in 9/30/2029 that are 7 years, 6 years from the date of separation. So I can print a Excel spreadsheet, so I know that these kiddos are going to be purged in 2029. And so, and then I can keep record of that. So I can save that. And so then if, for example, somebody asks me, the parent comes in and needs records, I have access to when that kiddo is going to be purged, and I have access to see when I can find that. We in Kent stored everything when, at every year, we actually stored everything by purge date. And then we kept an Excel spreadsheet of when the kiddo records were going to be purged. And so we can access those records at any time. So if a parent came in, we knew exactly what folder they were in and where we can find those kiddos. So I can print an Excel spreadsheet to see when exactly these kiddos were going to be purged. And then I can also print a letter that's going to go to the parent that says, hey, this kiddo's record is going to be purged in 2029. If you want this record, please contact us and you can pick up this record. So lots of great things that can be done within this. And so if I, oops, cancel, let's say pending. I can do, oh, let me do that again, 09/30/2029. Nice, save. I've printed my Excel spreadsheet. I've printed out my letter to send out to the parent. Now you'll see here it says pending, and then it has the date for deletion. So then every year you can say, okay, say this said 9/30/2022. So every year you can pull those pending deletion dates and say, okay, these are all the records that are being pulled or being deleted for this particular year. So you can sort by pending date. So it's a great way to keep track. And you'll see here, this has a pending date of 4/27/28. And so it's a great way to keep track of, what's going to be pending, when you're going to purge those. Now, the system does not purge these automatically on this date. You will actually have to go in, pull those purged records. So for example, if I pull, here's my pending date. Oh, here we go. Pending deletion date. If I say 09/30/2029, find, here I've got all these kiddos that can be pending, and then I'll have to go in and then I will permanently delete the records. So that's the one kind of saving grace. Yes, you can put a pending date in there. But you can go in, you or your whoever within your district will need to go in and actually physically go in and manually purge those records and permanently delete those records. So it's a great way to do that. So if you set them up to purge anybody who separated from the district in 2022, you can set them as pending for 2028, 29, and then in 28 or 29, you can pull those dates and then purge those records. And so it's a great way to keep track of all of those within the system if you're doing, especially if you're doing paperless and you don't have those paper records anymore. But then you can also, if you do still have those paper records, you can actually use this, do the Excel spreadsheet, pull those files, put them in a container, put them in a box, and then you have your electronic records and your paper records that match, and then you'll destroy those or delete them at the same time. Any questions? If the student comes back before the purge date, will they automatically be put in the active files? No, you will need to, great question. No, so if the kiddo, say the kiddo, that's a great question. So say the kiddo leaves the district in kindergarten and the kiddo is gone and so that's the data separation from your program in your school. Say, you can either keep the kid archived or you can mark pending. But if the kiddo comes back, you can always, so say Gwendolyn comes back, I can come in here and even though they're pending with a pending deletion date, I can always come in and activate the student back. And so now they're not populated on my list because I did a search for pending. So now Gwendolyn is now archived. Where do you check this date? I did it here. So the date that I did a search for was this pending deletion date. And so I entered 9/30/2029. So anything that was pending deletion between now and 2029 is going to pull.
Sorry, I meant which date is the date that you use for knowing that you can delete it? Like what date is the measure it by?
Yep, I can send that to you. It's the Secretary of State has a great schedule, and it's technically 6 years from separation. So if the kiddo leaves today and say, okay, I always like to use graduating or aging out of the program because those are the safest records to obviously purge. Because when they're 27, 28, they're not going to obviously come back into your district. So if you let's just use graduates as an example, or 21-year-olds, you're going to actually, if they graduated or aged out in 2022, you're going to count 6 years. So if it was June 30th, 2022 is when they separated from your program, either as a graduate or aged out, you're going to count 6 years into the future. So 2028, and that's when you're going to put your pending deletion date. And I can send this out. When I send out the video, I've got a great form that I pulled from the Secretary of State that spells out the deletion of the record deletion. And so that's where you come up with that date of, okay, from the date of separation, the kiddo graduated or aged out June 30th of 22, you're going to count 6 years in the future. And that's their pending deletion date, which they'll be 28, 29, something like that. But I'll send that out as well. But yes, if you archive them or if you mark them as pending, you can always come in here, check this box over here on the left-hand side, and activate them and confirm. And then they will be active back in the system. The other thing I wanted to show you can do some mass caseloads from, let's do find student. Let's pick a attending school. I don't know if I have any kiddos in my school, but let's see. Ooh, I have a lot of kiddos in my school. So say I want to put let's pick a bunch of kiddos. I've got a handful of kiddos here, and I want to do a mass caseload assignment. So all of these kiddos are at this school. We have a teacher, we have an SLP, we have an OT, we want to do a mass assignment. So I'm going to click my kiddos that are going to have the same caseload. So they're going to have the same teacher, they're going to have the same OT, they're going to have the same SLP, they're going to have the same. So I've clicked my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-ish kids. I'm going to select caseload. So I've got my kiddos here. And then these are the teachers that have access to Gregoire PS12. And so I can have access. So I'm getting all of them have access. And then I'm going to select next. And then I've got all my kiddos here and I'm going to say, okay, demo account 5 is going to be the primary case manager, and Susie demo and new user are going to be other providers. Then I can select next. And it says, make sure the following information is correct. Primary case manager is demo 5. And it says to continue, the current caseload will replace any of their, so if they had anybody else on their caseload, it's going to replace it. So you want to confirm that. We're going to say, yep, we want to confirm that. It's going to remove anybody. And so now these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 kiddos all have been mass assigned to the same caseload. So it's a great way to do that. If you have, if you have one special ed teacher and one SLP and one OT, or, at a building, and you've got, 30 kiddos that are all going to have the same OT, SLP, and all that, you can actually do a mass assignment and just say, we're going to just take all 30 kiddos. They're going to do all that. You can also, though, if you're going to, you can just say, okay, well, this, he's only going to have access, but he's not going to be another provider. So you can, or what was the other thing I was going to say? Yeah, so if the principal, say, for example, had an account there and they were going to be read only and you didn't want them to be marked as another provider, you can just mark the principal as has access to all those kids. And so then you're like, okay, the principal has access, these two are other provider, and we have a case manager. So again, it's a great way if you have somebody at a building, or for example, if all 3rd graders have the same SLP, you can do this mass caseload. So then you don't have to go, and I'll show you some caseload stuff when we get in here, but you don't have to do a mass, you don't have to go into each individual kiddo and assign caseloads, or it's a different way. So far we've seen transfer, copy a caseload. We're going to see how to assign a caseload to, individual kiddos. And so this is a way to mass assign kiddos. Any questions about that? There's lots you can do in this student screen. So any questions about the student screen? No? Okay. We're just going to keep plugging along. And if you think of any questions, just holler back and we can come back to this. Okay. So the next tab we're going to look at is reports. Now, we don't have the time to cover and look at every single report on this screen. I am going to show you a few of my favorites and a few that districts use all the time. Excuse me. And they're great reports. The eligibility amendment report and the IEP amendment report, I actually really like better than these. I actually really like the current IEP timeline and the current eligibility timeline. I love the case manager supplementary provider report. Also the unlocked plan and eligibility report, the goal progress report, and then we've got some new timeline report. So I'm just going to show you a few of these. And so each report has different parameters that you can select. And so I always do so remember when we were just in the student screen and we archived a kiddo, we want to make sure that we don't want to include kiddos that were archived. So we always want to say, if we're looking for those current students, we want to say not archived. So that's really important because we don't want any of those kiddos that have been archived, that have left the district. We don't want those kiddos. And then I always, if it's an IEP that I'm looking for, so this is a current IEP timeline. I always do today's date. What is today? The 7th. 1 year prior. Oops. 2021. So that's going to capture anything that has been created and anything that's going to be current, because obviously anything that was created 1 year prior to today is going to be expired. So I always do today's date 1 year prior, and that's the start date of the IEP. SIS active, you don't want to have, well, you may want to have the inactive kiddos because you may have some inactive kiddos, especially like right now, that say school hasn't started yet, and maybe school starts tomorrow or school starts Friday. You want to pull those inactive kiddos because they just haven't kicked in for the first day of school yet. So you could leave that open. I'm going to go ahead and pick active. Oh, I'm actually going to leave it open because this is our demo site, so it can be a little bit wonky. And eligibility status is current, expired, or ineligible. I'm going to go ahead and you can select those. Most likely you can do current, so the evaluation is a current evaluation. I'm going to leave that open. Same with IEP status, whether it's current or expired. And then you can select if you want to include 504s or not include 504s. You can also select if you're just looking for one location versus looking for every location within the building. I'm going to actually look at my school again so that it's not looking at all the kiddos. And then down here, you can print it or export it to Excel. Let's just go ahead and print it, and it's going to print to a PDF. Oh, just pulled out one kiddo. And so you're looking at, all these kiddos, well, not all these kiddos, you're looking at this one particular kiddo. And so it's got the grade, preschool, the disability, the IEP type initial, the current meeting date, which was March, current IEP date, and then the current IEP end date and the current meeting due date. Because the meeting, if the meeting came before the IEP, they have to hold the meeting before the IEP expires. So the meeting date, if it was 3/1/2023, they need to, excuse me, if the meeting was 3/1/2022, they have to have the meeting prior to 3/1/2023. And then the expiration date, and then the attending school. And then it'll list the case manager if the case manager was there. So again, you can list, pull those current and look at those timelines, or you can export it to Excel. And again, filter. I love exporting these reports to Excel because you can filter them and then sort them any way that you need them. I find them, I like to print them here to see if this is the information that I want. That's usually what I do first. And if it's not the information I want, I may go back and change a parameter. If I want to maybe sort it by a case manager or maybe a due date, I can do that and then print it again. Maybe that's how I want it. So I'll print it in a PDF to make sure that's the information I want. And then once I get the information I want, I'll export it to Excel so I can filter it and sort it as needed, because that's the best way to look at these reports in Excel, because that's how you're going to get that information and filter out that information that you want. I'm going to cancel that one. And then let's see, we'll show you the eligibility amendment report, how it's a little bit different. So, oh, here, this is actually a good one too. That's a little bit different. The eligibility amendment report and the IEP amendment report. We've had questions on, for example, how do I find all the revocations? So this would be a great report to run. So here I'm going to pull revocations. I don't know if I have any in my demo site, but you then pull like a date range. It wouldn't be, an IEP start date range, but maybe I want to do any revocations between let's say the last 2 years. And then if I just leave this open, it's just going to come up to today. And then I may want to leave this open because now I want to maybe see the archived kiddos, because I want to see all the revocations over the last 2 years. And then I want to look, I'm going to leave both of these open because again, I want to see all of them. I'm looking at all of the revocations in the last 2 years. So I want to see archived and unarchived. I want to see active and inactive. I want to see all of the eligibility and IEP statuses. I don't want to see, it probably is not going to pull 504s, but I'm just going to say no anyway. And then let's see if anything pulls for this demo site. Nope, nobody pulled. Okay. We might not have done any tests for that. Let's see maybe if we switch that to waiver. Let's see if we have any waivers here. Okay, here's an example. So we've done 3 waivers in this site. You guys probably will have more in our demo site. And so now I've pulled all the waivers that we've done in the last 2 years. And so this is the information that pulls. So it's going to pull the school and it's going to pull the student and then it's going to pull the waiver date. And then I was going to see if there was additional information. No. And again, you can export it. And if they have a case manager, oh, this one doesn't have a case manager. But you do see the disability if they have a disability. I'm not sure. And then if you really want to take a look, you can actually pull these kiddos by their number and then take a look and see some information. These might be unlocked and might not have a disability or decision in them yet. So that's probably why it's not pulling. Because again, this is a demo site, so we all have to be kind of aware of the wonky. But it's a great way to pull up, for example, FBAs. Especially if you're looking for at the start of school, maybe any IEPs with an FBA or a BIP, this would be a great place to do that. So you could pull the FBAs under the eligibility and amendment, or you can come to the IEP amendment report and look for any, you can look for transfers, or you can look for, I was looking for BIP, for the BIP here. So it's a great way to do this. Now, one thing I do want to mention, this where it says ESY IEP, it's going to pull, it's not going to pull the ESY IEP. It's going to pull any kiddo that has yes marked in the services tab where it says ESY yes or no. It's going to just pull those that say yes. So I don't want you to get confused that it's going to pull the actual ESY IEP. It's not going to do that. It's going to pull yes or no, and it's going to say which one it's going to pull. So the IEP amendment report and the eligibility report are good reports to use if you're looking for a specific type of report. Excuse me, a specific record type for what is a skeletal? A skeletal. Oh. An IFSP is like a service plan if for kiddos who maybe go to private school. Not very many districts have this turned on. We have it turned on because it's the demo, but it's an IFSP is just a service plan for kiddos that go to private schools.
Well, I guess maybe I should ask, what is a skeletal? Because we moved from e-com like mid-year, and so we have kids that are not in IEP online yet because their IEPs were not due until this year. So I've heard that term a lot, but what is a skeletal?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you're doing a transfer review, for example, even with a kiddo that maybe an IDT came over, but you want to do a transfer to enter in the SDI or I'm drawing a blank on if you want to enter in additional information, specifically the SDI or the related services or something like that. A transfer skeletal within the eligibility tab really only enters in the related SAS and the SDI. That's it. You don't have to enter in any of the evaluation stuff. You don't have to enter in the prior written notice. It's just skeletal information, which means it is the SDI, S-related, and dates. I think it's date, eligibility, disability, and the SDI and related service. So it's very limited information. So when it refers to skeletal, it means it's very limited information. It's like the pertinent information that you need and not the evaluation, all of that information. That makes sense, Catherine?
Yes, that does. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. Skeletal means very limited. And so, now this is nothing again. So one of the things I would say about these canned reports, I say just get in here and start playing with them, playing with the different parameters and seeing, now this is gonna, oh, there we go. And seeing what you can pull. The one that I love this report, is the Case Manager Supplementary Provider Report. And this one, you have to do it in Excel. You have to. I don't even know if you have an option to do it in PDF, but and so this is going to pull those kiddos. It's going to pull their service minutes. It's going to pull all this great information, as well as the case manager. And so I'm going to show it to you here as soon as it stops thinking. Oh, this is what happened earlier. If I can do it again. There we go. Okay, and this has a lot of parameters, but I'm going to say not archived. I'm going to say IEP start date from 2021. SIS, I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave a lot of these open, but I'm actually going to come down here and select, I'm going to provider type case manager. If I left this blank, I'm going to get duplicates because it's going to give me the provider and the case manager for like every single service, but I want it just by case manager. And I'm going to show you here in a second. So I'm going to do this to Excel. Oh, you can print it to PDF, but it's useless. And I'm just going to say it's useless in PDF. You have to do it to Excel. Okay. Oh, good. There's not a ton of kids. So this is a great, I just love this report. This is one of my favorite reports. So it pulls some great information. You have your disability, your IEP end date, you've got your minutes in school, your case manager, the service type. So whether it's special education, related, transportation, SAS, we're going to just keep scrolling. You have your service here, IEP start date, end date, or this, excuse me, service start date, service end date. So Carolyn, let me think about that one, Carolyn, for a second. Frequency, so 2 times weekly, service minutes per week. And then it's going to talk about the location. And so I think that's it. And so this is just a great report because you can pull the services. And so if you're looking, for example, we get this question a lot where it's like, I want all this I want the kiddos with all the communication services in 5th grade at this location. And so you can pull that here. And so if you have 2 times weekly, so you're saying, okay, they're doing 20 minutes 2 times weekly for 40 minutes per week. And so it's just, again, it's pulling the case manager. So you have the case manager here, new user, and then you have, or you can sort all special education types. You can pull related types. Somebody had mentioned one-on-ones. And so you can pull all those students. This is where you can pull those students, for example, who aren't going to pull in the find student screen in the eligibility with the one-on-one in that related service, but you can pull, if you filter this, and then you say service type related, and then service, and it's that one-on-one, you can filter that here. So you can do related services, and then it's, I can't remember what they called it, but if it's a paraeducator or a one-on-one, you can sort that here. So where you couldn't pull that in the find student screen, this is where I would recommend pulling it for finding it on the IEP. So any questions about that? I love this report. IEP goals for a set of students in KZone in Excel. So Carolyn, I'm thinking, let me go back here. So were there any questions here about this particular report? This is, like I said, my favorite report.
If someone's missing minutes, does that mean that is that a red flag?
It's probably, it's probably because this is a wonky, oh, where'd it go? Is that this one? It's probably because it is a wonky student that may have been locked and then unlocked. And it's maybe we didn't, maybe it's we locked it and then we unlocked it and deleted some stuff. And so yes, I would say it's a red flag for your district, not for our demo district, because we unlock and open things and we try and break things basically in this demo site. But yes, if I would probably go look at that particular kiddo and see why they're pulling into this report and see what's going on with their minutes. Now for my demo site, not too concerned because like I said, we try and break things on this site.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now Carolyn asked the question, is there a report to pull IEP goals for a set of students in Excel? So I'm sitting here thinking about that and I'm almost wondering if you would want to pull the goal progress report, Carolyn, because that would actually pull the students, the goal. It's going to pull the progress, but I don't know if it's going to pull, let's see, let's take a look at that. I don't know what's going to pull in this to read this report, but let's say progress start date, let's say 09/01, let's do 2020 because I don't know. And let's just see what this report looks like. Because you could probably filter this in Excel, Carolyn, for by school and by maybe even case manager. But let's take a look of what it looks like. Oop, we got a lot of stuff here. So if you wanted to, for example, filter, look for a particular school. Let's pick my school. Oh, okay, that's good. Or pick goal specific to maybe SDI or a goal skill, or maybe even a case manager. This may be a good one to pull goals. I also, Carolyn, have a report in flexible reporting. Like I said, we're not getting into flexible reporting today, but I do have a flexible report that I could send you on how to pull goals from your site and then filter them as needed, basically by school, by case manager and all that. So this one's going to pull the goal and the goal skill and all of that. It's also going to pull like the attainment date and any goal progress, but it will pull the goal and all that other pertinent information. But there's two options and I can talk to you about that as well. But goal progress, and then I can also send out the how to pull just a flexible report of your goals. And then you can filter and sort as needed.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. The other one, a couple of other real quick, like I said, I don't want to get too deep because I just want you to get in here and play with some of these. The unlocked plan record report and the unlocked eligibility record report, great report to run once a month to see what is unlocked. Specifically for those districts that are using the write back, you want to make sure that those records are locked in order to get those locked for your counts. I know that we have had a few districts starting to convert to the write back. If you're not familiar with the write back, very similar to how the SIS, the student information system, comes, the information, the demographic information comes from your student information system into IEP Online. The write back is where the special education information, the dates, disability, LRE, case manager, the special ed information comes from IEP Online every night and goes into your SIS every night rather than manually entering that information. However, the records that come into your SIS have to be locked in order for that information to come in. So districts that are using the write back use the unlocked plan and unlocked eligibility to make sure those records get locked prior to count days each month. to make sure that those records get locked. And so they import into your student information system to get on the count. So if you're not sure, because I know a lot of you are new, if you're not sure your district is using the right back, feel free to email customer support and we can let you know that information. And if you're not using it and would like more information about it, it's free. There's no cost to do it. And we just connect you with WSIPSI and your regional data center to get that going. We pull the information every night anyway. And so it's just whether or not we pull that, put that into your system. That being said, some of you, I think Catherine said they just imported or just implemented this year. We do recommend that you're with IEP Online for at least 1 year before you start using the right back, because you're not going to have all your records in there yet. So if you're new to IEP Online, wait 1 year before we implement the right back. But it's free, so, and it's a great system. Good, Catherine. Okay, so those are great reports. Again, it's just going to pull that information. Same thing. Whether it's nice, goodness, same parameters as all the other reports. SIS, archive status, eligibility status. A lot of these have those same parameters, but you're going to pull that information of what's unlocked. And you're just going to, reach out to your end users and make sure those records get locked or, and sometimes, the one thing actually that's great, and if I can export this, but I'll just print this one. The one great thing about these reports, it shows the percentage of how much is complete. So if you're, we have the start date, and then it has state compliance. So for example, right here where it says 100 and 100, sorry, my son just keeps calling me. If it's 100 and 100, it might be somebody who forgot to lock it. Like, oh, wait, I had my meeting. It's done. I just totally forgot to lock it. Thanks for the reminder. And they go in and lock it. Or the meeting happened in June and they're barely at anything. And you're like, can you give me an update on why the meeting was held in June? Can you, give me an update on what's going on with this record? And so this is what I love about this, is because it has the percentages of where that record is. And so you can kind of keep up on that. So that's one of the great things about this. It tells you who the case manager is, it tells you all the dates, and it tells you where it is in regards to that compliance piece. So yeah, love this. Great reports. And then the last one I want to show you on here is we've got some great timeline reports. We have a new one that I want to show you. Let's see, which one do I want to show you? Oh, our new timeline report. Okay, this report is crazy. I'm going to click on it and you guys are going to see, how crazy this is. Oh, and while we're waiting for that, the referral and initial evaluation timeline report is another great report to take a look at. Just to see those timelines from the referral and consent to the initial evaluation, if you're looking for those timelines. Thought I'd throw that in while we're waiting for my little thing to circle here. Oh, and while we're waiting for that too, this user access report, that's the report that I recommend running at least once a year, maybe in the summer, and run it for like the school year, because you don't want to run it and leave it open, because it's going to pull everybody who was ever in your system forever. Run it for the previous school year, and then you're going to want to take a look at it. And so if there's SLPs, OTs, psychs, anything, you can look and you can highlight those maybe that are no longer with the district. What I used to do, because Kent was a rather large district, I would give it to either the leads of, the OT, SLP leads. I'd give it to assistant directors, and I would say, hey, cross out anybody who's no longer here and then give it back to me. So then I would go in and delete those users. So it's just one of those things of cleanup at the end of the year. But maybe you didn't know about it and you can do that now. So if there's somebody who maybe has left the district over the summer and you want to remove them, that's a great report to run right now. I would just run it, like I said, from probably 9/1/21 till now and see maybe who's on that list that maybe you can remove. Okay, I'm going to run this report. It's going to pull into Excel. This is a crazy report, and you're going to need and want to filter this report. It has every timeline for every student. Oops. And this is going to print to an RPT, so I'm going to drag and drop it into my Excel. Oops. I think I can just do, where's my download? I think it's probably this one. Yep. Okay, so this report has, and this one you are definitely going to want to filter. So it has every single date, meeting date, start date, end date, but it also has how many days until it's due. So for example, this one has 8 school days until it's due. This one is overdue 100 school days. This one's overdue 174 school days. Be it, I hope your district, and I'm pretty sure your districts are not going to have this many overdue as we do, but you have your eligibility, very similar to what's on the demographic tab. So I've got, all of my due dates and when they're overdue. So this is, like I said, this is a great one that you're going to want to filter. And then you can filter anything that's maybe overdue. I think you can probably do it a lot easier than I can. Let's just say that. Oops. And so you can filter your overdue, or you can filter it by, if I go backwards, I can do by, let's undo this, by this, and then see anything that maybe expired in 2021. So it's got a ton of dates on here. It's got, even has the early childhood outcome, so all the COSF information and whether that's due. So it's just a great report. It's got a ton of information on it. But I say play with this one. It's a new report that we just brought out probably within the last, 6 months or so. Play with it and see it, and just it's a great report, and see how you can filter it and pull that information. But it's a fun report to look at. I love doing it, but I love doing it with districts because obviously they have different information than we have because we don't have much information with it being a demo site, but it's fun. So one of the reports I recommend trying. So that's all I'm going to get into on the report side, because like I said, we don't have a lot of time, and I really want to get to preferences and codes. We've got about 45 minutes. Any questions on that? Oh, sorry. What's the name of that report? That is the timeline report. It's down under the compliance reports on the very bottom.
So
right above.
I have a very newbie question here. I don't seem to have any of those reports. I don't have a reports tab. Who would I talk to about that?
And Candace, what district are you with?
Soap Lake.
Okay. I will check your, after this training, I will check your parameters or your permissions. Make sure that you have the right permissions.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, so yeah, I just recommend getting on these reports and playing with them. And we may be doing some more report training in the fall. And so we'll let you guys know that when that happens. Okay, we're going to switch over to preferences. So one thing I am going to say, and this is so important, is we have a code here and we have a short name here. Please, 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 please do not change either of these. It is very common for districts to change, especially the short name. We just had a district change theirs. These are specific to your imports. If these are changed at all, your imports won't run. So I think we're gonna try and gray these out so they can't be edited. But right now I'm telling everybody who will listen, please do not touch the code or the short name, because those will impact your imports if those are changed. So people want to go in and like change this to like their full name, Washington School District, and that's gonna stop your imports completely. So also make sure that you have your administrative email address as well as your IDT email contact here, so that anytime reminder emails go out, or emails for your IDTs, that somebody has somebody to contact. If these are left empty and those reminder emails or emails for your IDTs go out, and they have questions, they don't have anybody to contact. So please make sure that these are filled out. This address that's entered here goes on the top right-hand corner of your all IEPs. So make sure that this is filled out for your district. And we're just going to scroll down. So a couple of things I really want to point out here. One of them is, remember when we've talked about this a little bit when in that eligibility tab or in the find student screen where it's the eligibility, it says that it only pulls from the eligibility if it's a related service and all of that. If it's on the IEP, but it's not in the eligibility, it doesn't pull. Now, to kind of alleviate that problem, we have created this new button where it says require related services to be on the evaluation. So if somebody wants to enter a one-on-one as a related service in the IEP, if this is checked right here, they can't enter it in the IEP unless they enter it into the evaluation. So that's kind of where we've started to work on getting around that piece of making sure, though, that it's checked in that box. And so if they check that box in Find Student Screen for one-on-one related service, it's going to become more accurate, because if it's required if it's in the IEP, it's required to be in the evaluation. So that's, we've had a lot of districts turn this on. So in order to enter it into the IEP, it has to be in the evaluation. So just something to think about when you're thinking about that report and you're like, okay, I want to be able to pull that information from the Find Student Screen. This may be something you want to consider. Now, that being said, moving forward, if you turn this on today and Mrs. Teacher goes in to write an IEP and goes to try and add a one-on-one in the kiddo's IEP, but it's not in the evaluation that's already been created, they won't be able to. So either an assessment revision has to be done to add that as a related service, or they have to wait for the new evaluation to be done. So that's something to think about when you're turning that on. So just, I like to kind of preface that once that's turned on, it then makes it required. So because we get that email a lot. I was able to add it last year, but I can't add it this year. Well, it's because that was turned on and it wasn't in the evaluation last year, but now it's requiring it to be in there this year. So just something to think about. But this is when I had talked about that piece of kind of getting around that, making sure that it's in the evaluation and the IEP. This is where I was talking about that button. So if that's checked, that's going to require any related service that's in the IEP is going to be mandatory to be in the evaluation. The other thing I wanted to show you on here is the draft watermark. And when this is checked within an unlocked GT evaluation or IEP, any of those records, you can have an option to select draft watermark on any of those records. So when this is checked, but it's nice because even though it's still optional. So even if you turn this on, the user will be able to configure it themselves. So they can either turn it on for the entire document, or they can pick and choose which pages they want it on. So maybe they want to turn it off for the Medicaid consent form. They can turn the draft watermark off for the Medicaid consent form. So just because you turn this on, doesn't mean that every single page in the unlocked document is going to have that draft watermark. They're still going to be able to pick and choose which pages will have it or not. They may not want it on the signature page. They may not want it on the Medicaid. They may not want it on the invitation. So something to think about. A lot of districts have turned this on. The LRE configuration upon locking, that is basically if you are entering your services in the service matrix, it's going to, as you know, I hope you know, or we can talk about that too. It's going to give you a recommendation. So if it's 80 to 100%, 40 to 70%, 0 to 39%, as you're entering those minutes, it's going to calculate that for you. Then when you go into the LRE, it's going to give you a recommendation. And then it's going to double check and say, hey, are you sure this is what you want to select? So this is just going to, these are going to basically, both of these are going to tell just kind of at that compliance check of double check to make sure that you have selected the correct LRE. So that's all I'm going to show you on here. The other two things on here, I know we're getting close to time, and I apologize with my slow computer, but now I say it and it goes slow again. In the locations, no, I'm sorry, in the departments, one thing that is really helpful is that if there are 1 or 2 level 1s within a school district, it's really helpful for us to enter those level 1s within this department. I'm going to get there before it does that. To enter them in here within the contact information. So if you enter in, you know, the department information, but you also have 2 areas to enter the primary contact and secondary contact. So it's super helpful for us if you guys enter in your level 1 contacts here, especially the title, the name, and the email. We have a contact database that we try to keep up with. And so it's super helpful if this information is in here. So if our database isn't updated, we could at least come in here and see if this has been updated to the correct level 1 information. And so sending out newsletters, sending out mass emails to say maybe something's going on with the system, you know, anytime we need to, sending out information about these trainings. It's super important that we have all the right contact information. So within preferences under departments, it's really important. And we ask if you put your level 1 information. So it could be the special ed director as one, or the level 1 contact is one, or maybe you just have 2 level 1s. You can put both level 1 contacts in here as well. Maybe one's the special ed secretary, maybe one's an IT compliance person, but that's just really helpful for us. Amy, you have a question?
Can I ask a quick question about the location and the minutes per week? Is this their scheduled minutes that you've reported to OSPI for your total FTE for the building? Or how do you get these minutes per week?
Yes, so this is total minutes per week that's reported to OSPI for the building for the week, correct?
And that's based on their posted building bell schedule, correct?
Yes, that is, yeah. Yep.
Okay. And
Yep.
so then you all make your percentages off of that schedule.
Correct. So this is actually
Okay.
going to carry over into the IEP. When you do your, so this is going to carry over into the IEP. It's still going to be editable, but it's going to carry over into the IEP. So as you're entering, as the users are going to enter their services, it's going to base the percentage off of this number.
So is it a direct pull from Skyward or from the student information system, or is this something you put in
No,
on our own?
This is what you guys put in on your own.
Thank
This
you.
is totally, yeah, this is totally entered by you. And something else to think of too, you can actually come in here by building and enter in all of your building information. And then it also is customized minutes for each grade. So if you have a kindergarten grade or a preschool grade that has less minutes, you can actually go in and change the minutes for particular grades.
Thank you.
Yeah, so something to think about too. That's a good thing to know. Sorry, I should have done that. But yeah, this is all configurable by you guys.
Chris, I have a quick question. We've gotten rid of some schools. What does it do when you delete a school? Is that an okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Any kiddo that's going to be in that, if any kiddo is listed as attending or assigned to that school, and if you would delete that school, their attending and assigned is just going to be blank until
Okay.
it's updated in the SIS and rolls over into a new school.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the last in this section I want to show you is the calendar. The calendar is super, super, super important for timelines, consent to eligibility to IEP. So making sure at the start of school that you have all of your holidays, all of your, I know there's a couple of schools striking right now, making sure there's some strike days in there. Making sure that anything that's in here, that there's a non-school day is entered in here, because you want to make sure that those are reflected in your timelines. So for example, we had a couple of schools come back this year and say, hey, we had an IEP meeting, or excuse me, we had a consent for evaluation on June 20th, and the evaluation was due on July 30th. Well, we didn't have any school. Well, we went in and checked. Well, they didn't enter in their summer break. And so by doing that, it just didn't count, it didn't count a break. So you have to make sure when you start your school year, make sure that your IEP online calendar matches your school calendar. So if, for example, 9/1 was a holiday, well, actually that wasn't a holiday. Let's say the 5th was Labor Day. So we're going to go in and say, okay, we're going to mark the 5th is Labor Day. We're going to mark it is a holiday. Yes. We're going to say here, we'll say Labor Day. And then I'm not going to check anything, because if you read this, it says exclude locations. We want to include all of our locations. So I want to save that. Now, if this was, for example, a snow day, and all of the schools, let's do this one. I'm going to mark this is holiday, even though it's not a holiday, it's a snow day. Let's say this is a snow day. But let's say my school had school. My school was so advanced that we're like, hey, we're going to school anyway. We're going to check, okay, we're going to exclude. So we're going to count my school as going to school. So I'm going to select save. So that means every school was on a holiday, but my school. Now, this was used a lot during COVID. So if you had a COVID outbreak at one of the high schools, you would say is holiday, and you would actually check all of these with the exception of, you would exclude. So for example, so this one doesn't have an all button. So like if say elementary 2 had a COVID outbreak, you would have to check all of these. This isn't very, we need an all button. So this is saying, then we would say COVID. So if elementary 2 had a COVID outbreak, elementary 2 had a day off. And so we're not going to count that day. We're going to count that day as within the, that's going to affect the timeline. And so I'm going to select save, but all the other schools were in session. So you got to remember it's excluding. So if one school was in school with one, like if it was a snow day, but one school went to school, you're going to exclude that one school. If one school wasn't in school, then you got to exclude all the other ones. So this happened a lot during COVID. When you had one school that had an outbreak and they had to shut down one school for a day at the beginning. This happened a lot. So you just have to make sure that your calendar reports any sort of closure. And so you wanted to make sure. So anybody at elementary school 2, this day is going to be reflected in their timelines. Any questions about that?
So would you be checking it as holiday for that one then?
Yes, it says is holiday, but it should be, oh yes, I didn't check it as holiday. Yes, I should have checked it as holiday.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you for catching that. I should have marked
Well, I
that
wasn't
as
sure.
holiday.
I was like, I'm following and
No,
then
no,
I
no.
missed it. Okay.
No, you're 100% right. I should have checked that as holiday. I missed that, but now it's thinking. So yes, you're 100% correct. I'm glad you caught that. So if I need to mark that as holiday. You could also do, you know, if you just do not mark anything, you can even just say, if you leave this blank, like we just said, and we can say first day of school. So you can indicate days without marking anything, just to indicate a day. Or if you have maybe late starts or early dismissals, you can indicate those days on here without reflecting any sort of closure, just so you have that kind of information with, you know, on your calendar. But yes, this should be marked as holiday because elementary 2 is going to be closed because of elementary school is going to be closed for COVID, but my computer doesn't want it to be closed for COVID. Let's try that again. Okay, there we go. And now I'm going to save. There we go. And you could even, if you just say COVID, you could say, probably even say, if it's just one school, elementary 2 closed. And then save. So you can indicate which schools closed that day. So just, I would recommend, if you're new to the calendar, I would just pull up your school calendar, take a look at it and see if it matches, make sure the IEP Online calendar matches your school calendar. Okay. Any questions, other questions about the calendar? We also have a great QRD on the dashboard for the calendar too, if you have any questions. Okay, the last one we're going to cover in IEP in Admin Online is codes. And again, I can't cover all of these codes, but a few things I'm going to cover that are really, really important. The first is contact methods. No, is that what I wanted? Yes, contact methods. So within there has to be a compliant, and this is per district. This is by the district. Each district has compliant methods of contact. So a letter is always compliant. We have some districts that an email is compliant. We have some districts that in person is compliant. It's totally up to the district. But at least, you know, when you're writing an IEP, the end user has to select at least one compliant method of contact to reach out to the parent. This is where you're going to select that. Excuse me. This list has grown to include text message, Zoom calls, things like that. It is up to your district to configure this information, add the method here as you guys want, and then you will decide which method is compliant. So if email is compliant, you would just select email and save. And so then when your users are creating it, instead of selecting letter, they can select email, which is now a compliant method of reaching out to the parent. So making sure these are updated. I know a lot of districts are adding text message, video conference, in person, a lot of different, I've seen a lot of different variations of methods have been added here. So just one of the really important things is to make sure that you have all of your methods here, as well as which ones are compliant within your district. Questions about that? That's pretty easy. Save. Oh, cancel. The other thing I'm going to point out, record types. If you have, not that one. What one was I doing? Oh, attachment types. Attachment types are when you're in the IEP, a locked IEP, you can attach a record, attach a document. For example, if you have signature page required turned on, if you have electronic signature turned on, and the user has selected attachment, the signature page is required to be selected in order for the system to know that a signature page has been attached, and then you can lock the document with our compliance checks. And so making sure that you have the appropriate attachment names, because you can also run a report to see which documents have signature pages. You can run reports to see which reports have been, or excuse me, which IEPs or even what maybe referrals have consent forms attached. However you do, you do your attachments, you can run a report. When Recovery Services first started and we didn't have anything in IEP Online to reflect Recovery Services, our recommendation was to add a recovery service document, attach it to a record, and then run an attachment report and pull all of the IEPs that had recovery service documentations attached. And that's how you knew a kiddo had recovery services. So making sure that you have the appropriate attachment types and entering those here, and then being able to run those reports. It's a great way to pull that information. And then active in this sense for codes means that it's going to populate in a drop-down menu. So anytime that you enter in active for one of these, it means it's going to populate in a drop-down menu. So if I unchecked that, it wouldn't populate in a drop-down menu. Any questions about the attachment? Amy, do you still have a question, or is your hand just still up from?
I guess my hand's still up. I don't know.
Okay, I didn't want to bypass you. I know I'm
I
kind
don't
of
know
getting
how to turn
past.
that part off. So
Oh, that's fine. I just wanted
maybe
to
I'll
make sure I
select it
wasn't
again.
missing anything.
I don't know. There we go. I think that worked.
The other thing, features. Now I have a lot more features in here that you guys could probably see. But some of the things that I wanted to point out is you guys can turn on that signature page required. We can only, PCG can turn on the electronic signature feature, and IEP Online Connect. IEP Online Connect is an add-on product, which is our parent portal. But I would recommend going in and taking a look at some of these features and seeing what's in there and taking a look. Remember when I was talking about the Find Student screen and the drop-down menu that were defaulted to active, that when you got into the Find Student screen, it automatically said active for the SIS. This is where you would attach that, or this is where you would turn that on here. Attachment type required. It's going to require you to enter an attachment type, which is good because then you can go ahead and run a report on those required attachment types. Here's another one. If you want an FBA is not required in order to create a BIP. So one of the things I say, just go in here, and especially with this features. So it's Admin Online features. And then just take a look and see what some of those are. Now in the admin manual, you can actually go in and just look up features, and then you'll see what every feature is in Admin Online. And so it'll tell you exactly which one, what does what. And so it's a great tool, but I say again, play with that. The other really important one in codes is grades. Grades is probably one of the most important features in codes because it generates minutes per week for students. It generates testing, next year's testing. It needs to be, like in chronological order. It pulls, it's just so many, it's a very important, feature here. And when I say they need to go in chronological order, I know that sounds super, like, of course they go in chronological order. What do you mean go in chronological order? Well, where it gets sticky, especially is with preschool, transition preschool or transitional kindergarten, all of that. And then sometimes they'll add a new grade and it'll just populate under 12. I've seen it where they've added preschool and it's come down here under 12th grade. So just make sure that your grades and the display order go in chronological order, because you want them to, like, for example, in the testing tab, you want, if they're in 5th grade, you want to see the accommodations for the testing for 6th grade. So a lot is dependent on this tab and minutes and the chronological order of these grades and how everything populates in the IEP. So I can't stress enough how important it is that this section is correct. I know that sounds so simple, like it's grades. What do you mean? I just enter the grade. But it not only enters the grade, it has the LRE. It has, if this is preschool is checked, it generates the COSIF information. So it's sometimes this grade level K-12, the LRE for school age is checked, but the preschool is checked, which is going to pull the preschool code, the preschool LRE. So again, just it's really important. It seems really simple, but it's really important. That makes sense? I hope it does. Okay. There's a couple things I really want to cover in IEP Online. If anybody sees anything in here that they would like me to cover, feel free to, but there's a lot in here. And I'm happy if anybody has any questions about any, I'm happy to answer any of these. But this is kind of one of those things where I say, jump in here, play with it. You can look at your service frequencies. Here we are daily, weekly. You've got your service descriptions, your durations, your frequencies. All of these things can be just jump in and play with them, because it's just one of those things that is just great to, can't really hurt anything. And if you can, I have a great friend of mine who I learned a lot from, always said, what can be done can be undone. So if you get in here and play with something and it changes something, we can help fix that. So don't worry about that. The last thing I want to show you in here are the reminders. And these are the email reminders for refer to eligibility, eligibility to eligibility, meetings to meetings. And these can be set up here. And I like to pinpoint these because you can select IEP meeting to IEP meeting and then select who gets who's going to get the email. So if, for example, our new user is selected as the primary case manager, the new user will get the email. If you select supplementary provider or other provider, they will also get the email. And then if you has access to the student, for example, maybe the principal, they'll also get the email. A lot of the times it's just the primary case manager who's going to get that email. However, I have seen it when maybe it's overdue 10 days, the IEP or the evaluation. I've seen where maybe the SPED director is down here. And so you can actually add users. So if this is overdue, you can enter their email. And so, and then save. Oh, okay, it's not gonna let me do that. Probably because it's, yeah. And so if there is, if there is anything overdue, maybe not 2 days, but maybe if it gets to 10, maybe if it's at 20 days, you can add an additional person here. You may not want them to get every single email, but you may want them to see, okay, this IEP is overdue. And maybe it's not the SPED director, maybe it's the lead at the school, maybe it's the, maybe it's the principal, or like I said. And so you can enter that information here if there's something that is pertinent to somebody who needs that information. But again, if you just select primary case manager or supplementary provider or has access, or this is going to be actually other provider, it's just going to select whoever is marked on that kiddo's caseload, and they will get these reminder emails. And there's a lot of emails in here, and you can actually go into your reminders and delete some of these. If you don't want to have, 45 days out, 31 days out, you can actually go in and say, oh, I don't want that many. I'm going to delete that one. So yeah, pretty easy. And they're in here for 504s as well. So if you want to add some reminder emails for 504s, you can do that as well. Any questions about those reminder emails? Does anybody see anything in here that's caught their eye that maybe you want me to talk about? Okay. So what I actually want to do now is pop into IEP Online and just show you a few things in the next 15 minutes that are good to know. Like I said, we aren't going to really go into a ton, obviously, in the next 15 minutes, but I do want to show you a few things. The first I want to show you in regards to, remember that big timeline report I showed you? Very similar on the home page of each student is a very similar for each individual student. Here you have your timelines for each student, and you have those calendar dates here. If they were overdue, it would show overdue. Here you've got your case manager. Here, now you see it's grayed out. Grayed out means you cannot edit it. But I can actually go in and add, here's another way to add a case manager. I've already shown you two, how to transfer and copy caseloads, how to do a mass caseload. Now here's how to do it for each individual student. So I'm going to come here to caseload. I'm going to click on caseload. So this is our third way. Now you'll see there's, it says team. There isn't anybody on this kiddo's team yet. So I'm going to update that. So I'm going to click update. And it looks like I only have one person assigned to this school. So I'm going to now add Demo 5 account as the primary case manager. So I'm going to click has access to student and primary case manager. And I'm going to save. Now, if you have a lot of people at your school, a lot of teachers, SLPs, or maybe just there's like pages and pages and pages, you can actually do a search here and try and find somebody too, which is very, much easier to do if you have pages and pages of people. But I'm going to now go back to my team, and you'll see I have my demo account here. If I go back to my page, my case manager has been added. So that's the third way to add students to a caseload. So again, transfer or copy a caseload, a mass caseload, and then individual student caseload. And then a couple other things I want to show you real quick. If the student has a preferred name in the student information system, we've been seeing this a lot more lately. A student, maybe a non-binary student, has a preferred name they would like to go by. If that is entered in the student information system and it comes over here, it's grayed out, you can't edit it. But if it comes over here, if you check this use student's preferred name, this name now will appear on all records within IEP Online as well as PDFs. So it may not be their legal name, but it's their preferred name. And like I said, we're seeing this more and more. And when you select save, it will save that and on all PDFs as well as within the system, it will populate the student's preferred name. Now, the great thing about this is that if you only have the student's legal name, you don't maybe have the preferred name, you can search the student by either name and the student will pop up. So if you don't know one or the other, if you only know one or the other, you can just search one or the other and the student will pop up. The other thing I wanted to point out is the foreign language support. If this is checked, I'm actually going to check that. If this is checked, it will print Spanish free forms. So if this is checked, you can print any form, document form within IEP Online, even the transportation form, free of charge, but just the forms, not any of the content that is typed into the form, just the form and only in Spanish. So if you just need a form for the parents to see or view, you can actually print that in Spanish for them to look at. So if this is checked, Spanish forms can be printed. That's, see, let me go here real quick. And I think somebody was asking about locked and unlocked, and I'm going to show that next. If I go to the plan, And so within IEP Online, and for those of you that are new to IEP Online, we have 3 status dots that will tell you where the record is in completion. So we have a red square, which means that it's less than 50% complete. We have a yellow diamond that means it's 50% or more complete, but not 100% complete. And then we have a green circle that means it's 100% complete and done and ready to lock. So with this IEP, it's thinking the entire IEP has a yellow diamond, which means it's more than 50% done, but can't be locked yet. And so then we can actually wait for it to go where it needs to go. We can actually click on those status dots and it will specifically tell us what needs to be completed. So we get that question a lot of, I have my IEP is yellow. I cannot figure out what I need to complete. Can you help me out? Because I can't figure out what I need to complete. And so by clicking on the status dot, it's actually going to tell you what you need to complete in order to get your compliance dot green, which I'm trying to show you as soon as it gets there. Okay, so if I click here on the yellow diamond, it's going to take me to my compliance menu and show me what exactly has been completed and what has not been completed. And then I can actually click on what hasn't been completed and it will take me there to show me what needs to be done. We probably could have been done with this training about an hour ago if my computer was, or I could have shown you a lot more. There we go. So you can see here the check marks mean that all of the information is complete in these sections. And so I go to look for the one that is unchecked and here it is. So it says signature tab. So I can actually click on that and it's going to take me to the signature tab. And you'll see here, it's going to show up here in a minute. It's going to be red. And so this is if a district has electronic signature tab turned on. So I can either enter an electronic signature here, or I can add an attachment. I'm going to show you both just so you can see it. If I add a signature tab here, I'm going to enter the date. We're going to enter today's date. I'm going to enter, let's just say it's my name. And then I'm going to sign my name. I just do that because I can't do it very well. If I don't like that, I can clear it or I can save it. And now you'll see my status is complete. And then, oh, I must have an attachment. Let me see. Say I must have an attachment. Oh, I do. So I've already attached a signature page here. So remember when I said those attachment types. Now, if I changed this, watch this. If I change this to other and save, it's going to change my status dot to yellow again. It's really important that you have that signature page labeled because that is the only thing our system recognizes as if you have an attachment or a signature page is required, that's the only thing. So somebody was asking earlier about unlocked versus locked. So unlocked means it's in draft form. And where I showed you earlier how to turn on that draft watermark, I can print a draft from within the record. So I'm going to come here and I'm in the IEP. I shouldn't have done that. I'm in the IEP. So I'm clicking in here and I go to print. And then I have two rows here. The DW means draft watermark and P means print. So again, I can maybe take off, here's the invitation. I'm going to turn the draft watermark here, and then maybe the signature page and the Medicaid. But then I'm going to print all the pages. Or let's just actually print those pages that, let's just print all pages. And then we'll preview. And so now I'm printing a draft of the unlocked IEP. And so when you're in a draft or an unlocked IEP, you can pick and choose which pages you want to print. Once you've locked the record or it's a final record, you can only print the IEP in its entirety. But you can also then print it in its entirety, but pick and choose which pages to print, I guess, like actual physically print. But this is where you're going to print those draft watermarks and print those draft documents. Okay, so let's do that. It's not going to let me cancel either. And this is also, if you select here, if that, remember when I clicked on that foreign language support and you were printing those documents for the forms, you could also select here. It's not going to let me print because it's thinking, but this is where you're going to print, select Spanish form only, and it's going to populate here in this select language. So if foreign language support is selected, you can check that here, and then the forms will print, not the content, but just the forms. Probably shouldn't have done that, printed this, but. And I really just want to show you a couple more things before we're done. Has anybody seen yet the how to print an IEP at a glance? And I can stay on a couple more minutes if anybody has any questions or follow up or anything, since my wonderful computer is doing this. Okay, good. Amy says yes. As soon as this is done. Okay. Now you'll see. Okay, so here I've printed a draft, and you're going to see here it says draft. And so it didn't print where I have my signature page. So that's the draft, and that's the lock. So I'm going to cancel this. Okay. And then once I lock my IEP, I come over to my little, and here's that recommendation, and it's going to confirm that I'm going to have this, it's confirming again what LRE I selected. I'm going to select yes. And then to print a final record, I'm going to come over to my, cancel. I'm going to come over here to my little pad of paper, click on that. And then I can select here. This is going to be the IEP I just locked, and it's like a snapshot in time of when I locked the IEP. And so it's going to print the entire IEP in its final form. So that's where you're going to print your final record. I'm not going to do that right now because we saw how long that took, but I am going to show you two things on this page real quick. If you're going to create an amendment to this IEP, you don't do it here from the create menu. You actually create it here from this little pad of paper and pen. So in order to create an amendment, you're going to click here, and then you'll enter and create the amendment. I think that was the only thing I was going to show you on this page. So that was, yeah, that's what I was going to show you on this page. So that's where you create the amendment, not here, but I do want to show you a couple of things on how to do an IEP at a glance, because that is important. Okay, so if an IEP or a 504 is locked with goals, with accommodations, with services, you're going to have this little box over here. And remember, I brought it up earlier and I said I was going to come back to it. I'm now going to click on it, and a couple of things populate, but I'm not going to look here. I'm actually going to look over here where it says print, and I'm going to click on it. And some new things are going to pop up. And now what is going to pop up is IEP at a glance. So if I check this and I select preview, it shouldn't take that long because it's just one page. And so now you have an IEP at a glance that has your services, your goals, your accommodations, and anything related to assessment or testing. And so if this was a 504, it would list all the accommodations. So it would be a 504 at a glance. The great thing about this is if a teacher or an end user has, say, maybe 10, 20 kiddos on their caseload, they can actually check this box and it will select all of their students, and they can print all of their students' all of their students' IEP at a glance at the same time. So then at the beginning of the school year, they can hand those to the general ed teacher or whoever may need one, and who may access the kiddo but may not have access to IEP online, give those IEP at a glances. So it's a great, a great tool. So just checking this box. Now, sometimes they'll say, oh, that box isn't there. Well, if it's unlocked or if there's no goals or there's, an IDT might not have a goal or a service, or a transfer might not have a goal or a service, or so if this box isn't here, that means it's missing some additional information, so that they might need to take a look at that record. Another thing real quick, I know we're just at time, real quick. This is another box that can be checked for quick entry, and this is for progress. So they don't have to go into each individual kiddos, each individual's progress. They could actually check all of their kiddos. They can check their goal progress. They can check the goals next, and then they can enter the goal for each. It looks like I only have one goal for this kiddo. Oh, interesting. Okay. And then save it. If there was multiple kiddos and multiple goals, you can just arrow through them and then complete them. And then you don't have to go through each individual kiddo, each individual goal. You can do it all here. And then you could actually come in here. And then again, you can print all of the kiddos, all of the progress reports from this handy dandy menu. And there's the progress report that we just entered. So, okay, I know we kind of were rushing at the end, but are there any questions? And is there anything I didn't cover today that somebody wanted me to cover? I am happy to stick around for a little bit. If you have time, I have time, but that was a lot. So I know that was a lot of information. I'm going to stop recording right now. Because that's about 3 hours of recording. Ooh. Okay. That being said, does anybody have any questions? I know that was a lot of information. And if there aren't any questions, I want to thank you all for spending the last 3 hours with me. I again apologize for my slow. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here real quick too. I apologize for my slow computer, and I appreciate your patience for with that. And I want to thank you for being here, and have a wonderful rest of your day. But I will stick around if there are any other questions. And if not, you guys are welcome. Go have some lunch and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Thanks, Catherine. Thanks, Amy Jean. Bye. Oh, my email. I recommend customer support, Amy, and that was the. That's the better one, because like I said, if I'm here at training, I wouldn't be able to get to it for hours. So there's always somebody on customer support. That didn't stop recording.
I'm pretty sure I have